Hi and welcome to day 1 of week 1 of training cycle 2 of 2021. Guys, training cycle 1 is gone. It's complete. I never have to do it again. Fantastic. Only problem is training cycle 2 is a lot harder. And training cycle 3 and training cycle 4 and training cycle 5 are very difficult as well. But we have to split up our training into small parts, and we have to focus on the next day, the next week, the next month, and not what we're going to do in 8 months, what we're going to do in 5 years. We can have long-term goals, but it's very important that we focus much more on the short term than on the long term. So that's what I did today. Today, as for those of you that watch my running videos, which are less of you watch the running videos, but in that video, I said that I was not going to sleep a lot, and I ended up sleeping 2 hours and 50 minutes tonight. And 2 hours and 50 minutes is very little, especially considering the fact that, I studied for 4 hours and then went out on a late night run. So I was pretty destroyed yesterday evening and pretty much most of today. But I'm an evening person, so I've got a bunch of energy now that it's like, I don't know what it is. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it's 10 a.m., something like that. It's pretty late in the evening, but I still got a bunch of energy. But I have to go to bed because 2 hours, 50 minutes, like no one ever made gains off sleeping that little. So I better sleep tonight. Okay, one thing that you noticed there on the squats, which I was chattering on about my sleep schedule, so I failed to talk about the back-off squats. Now, back-off sets are a method that powerlifters have been using for a very long time, much longer than I've even existed. It's a time-proven, pretty normal, regular addition to training. It's basically you do a heavy lift or heavy lifts. So maybe you do a 3-rep max and then you do some 5s afterwards. One thing that is common for back-off sets though is that they're not super light, although you can do that too. On Bulgarian Training, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do the gap. This is a bit difficult to explain, but for example, the overhead press. The goal for this training cycle is a 70 kilo overhead press. 85% of 70 kilos, that's about 60 kilos, and it's actually less than 60 kilos, but it's about 60 kilos. And then you think, okay, 60 kilos, the gap between 60 and 70 is 10 kilos, and that's what I'm going to be working with. And what happens is the gap in percentages closes the further you get on in the training. Basically, the further I continue to go, and the more adapted I'm going to get to the back-off work, the heavier it's going to become in proportion to my regular lifts. Now, that's going to make that so man, I'm stumbling over my words, haven't slept a lot, obviously. That back-off work is obviously going to make my training more difficult, but at the same time, it's going to make the maxes easier. Yes, my maxes will, short-term and even long-term, feel worse because I'm going to be fatigued in the legs and the shoulders and the pecs, things like that, in the triceps. But the back-off sets will still build muscle, and it's muscle that moves weight. And even if you got a fatigued muscle, if that muscle is bigger and stronger, even if it's slightly fatigued, it's still probably going to be able to produce more force, more times. It just is what it is. That's kind of how it works here. Now, the trick is not to overdo it, but I think that one set on squats that isn't that hard, and one set on presses, overhead press or bench press, sets of 3, a single set, probably not going to be too much. Although I already know now I'm going to feel it in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. But we'll get there when we get there. Now I just have to focus on my sleep and my diet, especially my fucking sleep, man. But I'm on top of my diet right now. It's going pretty well. Okay. I'm actually surprised that I can even speak right now because I literally slept pretty much nothing. Anyway, rows. Today, I added weight. And that's because the goal for this training cycle is to hit a 180 kilo deadlift. Now, the absolute minimum that I'm going to accept is a 175, but I need to hit 180 realistically. Now, a 180 deadlift, or actually, let's go back a bit. I did a 150 kilo deadlift recently, right? And to achieve that, I did 3 sets of 18 rows with 40% of 150. 40% of 150 is 60, right? So I took 40% of 180, which is 72, 72 and a half, like something like that. But instead, I'm going with 70 and I'm going to build up to 20 reps instead of 18, which means technically I'm actually going to be doing I'm going to make it a bit more difficult for myself in proportion. Now, there is a significant likelihood that I'm going to fall short on these rows in getting to 3 sets of 20. As the row goal, I did the calculations, I ran the calculations earlier today because I wrote the training program for the next 12 weeks. And the rows, according to my calculations, will be the most difficult thing to achieve, the most difficult goal to hit. I don't know what's going to be easiest. I'm pretty sure that rows are going to be the worst or the most difficult. Closely followed by the bench press, very closely followed by the deadlift, closely followed by the squat. I think the overhead press is going to be the most manageable, but even the overhead press is going to suck. So, and the chin-ups, I mean, yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing with the... Wait a bit, what am I saying now? Chin-ups. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go and try to hit 20 chin-ups. I'm not going to kill myself this training cycle on the chin-ups. Instead, I'm just going to focus on my form. And those 25 chin-ups, which is the goal for this year, that we'll get there when we get there. Although the deadlift goals, the squat goals are much more important than the chin-ups. These chin-ups, they're just the spicing on top. But I wrote there, like, 9 chin-ups, finally something easy, lol. Because, like, this workout... and actually not even this workout, just in general, my workouts for the last significant period of my life have just been so hard, all of them. And even this one, man, I mean, there are so many exercises in this fucking workout, and I'm going to repeat this for days and days on end. And, 0 rest days, because that's kind of how Bulgarian works. Now, some people are like, oh, I have trained 3,000 days in a row. Well, that's not really how I do it. I mean, obviously I take rest weeks every now and again, but that is every now and again. I mean, we're talking like months in between. Months in between, and maybe take a week or a couple days off, you know what I mean? And then here and there, I may miss a session. So all in all, I'm probably training... It's difficult to run these calculations in my head, but let's just say I'm training anywhere in between like 95 and 98, 99, something like that percent of the days in a year. Like 95% would be 365 minus... My brain really isn't working. Mine's like 15 days. So that's like 2 weeks in a day. Yeah, I'm probably training at like 94, 95% of the days in a year. Pretty much. It depends on how I calculate, but basically I train a lot, and I'm going to continue to train a lot, and train often, and train hard. After this workout, I also jumped rope, and I've scaled back the jump rope a bit because I was nearing a plateau, so I scaled it back by a couple minutes, and then we're going to start building back up. Last training cycle, I hit 12 minutes in a row on the jump rope. Today I did 8 minutes and 10 seconds, and the goal for this training cycle is to get to 20 minutes in a row. And if it's not in a row, let's say I fail 5 times, on the third fail I do 3 double jumps, or double unders as they say, and then say I fail the 7th time, then I do 7 double unders. You catch my drift, I think. So basically, even if I fail and the jump rope and don't get it all in one go, I have a rule that enforces difficulty, basically. So even if I quote unquote cheat by failing and it's smacking me in the toes or whatever, well, now I have to do extra double unders, which are very difficult. So I actually make it more difficult by failing. So that is really, I found the winning formula when it comes to the jump rope. It's just about finding the winning formula when it comes to everything else. One thing that I really think is going to help in this training cycle is like one thing that I really think is going to go well is the bench press and the overhead press, because I'm adding volume now on them, and I haven't felt it yet because I haven't even done more than a single. I mean, I've literally just done one training day, but this is an accumulation system. So the point of Bulgarian isn't to destroy yourself in one workout, it's to slowly but surely just fatigue you deeply over weeks and weeks, and now your body has to like recover and adapt constantly all the time, and it's slightly unsustainable, yes. So you cannot do this your whole life, but for, a couple months, a couple weeks, absolutely. And that's what I'm doing right now. So the bench press is about to go up past 90 kilos, and my squat, I started at a lighter weight of 112.5, but you guys know as well as I do that I'm going to blow past 120 in no time. Goodbye. I'm gonna fucking sleep now, because like I said, I slept 2 hours and 50 minutes tonight.